All right, welcome to the bright side. Thank you so much for joining us once again. We've been talking about vitamin K, the most misunderstood, underappreciated of all the vitamins in the vitamin formulary. Vitamin K has a reputation for being a circulatory system vitamin. We've been talking for a couple of days how important vitamin K is for newborns who typically are deficient in, or who may be deficient in vitamin K, depending on the status of their mom's health, depending on the situation, the environmental situation in the womb as the fetus was developing. Vitamin K is routinely given as an injection to children to prevent hemorrhagic disease of the newborn. We talked about that last week. K stands for coagulation. Coagulation in German anyway. It starts with a K. And that's because K is known as a clotting vitamin. It's a major player in the blood clotting process. The blood clotting process is probably the most complicated of all the biochemical reactions or series of biochemical reactions in the body, and for good reason. The blood is tissue, and the blood can get inflamed. And when the blood gets inflamed, that means clotting blood, and that means big, big problems. Clotting blood means lack of oxygen to tissues and to cells. Clotting blood means lack of detoxification. Clotting blood means lack of nutrient delivery. Clotting blood is really the key to staying healthy. Clotting blood is really the key to disease, and keeping blood from clotting is really the key to staying healthy. Blood is tissue, blood gets inflamed. Inflammation equals sticky, prone to clot blood. Inflammation generally comes into the body in the form of food. This is so important, people. Blood clotting is serious business, and blood clotting can be regarded as inflamed blood. The tissue called the blood gets inflamed. And how does this happen? Largely because of food. Largely because of food toxicity. Largely because stuff is getting into the blood that shouldn't get into the blood. It's called leaky gut syndrome. You probably have heard of it. Leaky gut syndrome is a descriptive term that really just says what it is. Holes in the gut. Holes in your digestive tract allowing food to get into the blood. This is not a trivial state. This is not a trivial condition, folks. Food getting into the blood, little particles of hamburger and sandwiches and fruit and whatever you're eating, getting into the blood is a disaster. This is why blood-thinning drugs are so popular. Our collective American blood is as toxic as the Gulf of Mexico or the South Pacific or any other body of water that you want to name on planet Earth. Our blood is as toxic as our planet, as our environment, as our minds. It's holographic. The whole planet is toxic, and the parts are toxic. Our bodies are toxic, our cells are toxic, our government is toxic, the citizens are toxic, and it does no good, by the way, to rail against government tyranny and the so-called New World Order when we are just as angry and toxic and hateful and deceitful as our government. Our toxicity and lack of nutrition shows up as the disease process. The disease process is how our body deals with toxicity. And the idea that we can drug ourselves back to health when we're toxic and diseased is as stupid and foolish and fallacious as the idea that we can shoot and bomb our way to a peaceful planet. John Kerry this morning, we're not going to war in Syria. This is what he says. You guys probably heard this. We're not going to war in Syria. We're just going to bomb them. That's what he said. We're just going to do a limited, very targeted, short-term bombing in Syria. We're not going to war, though. This is the kind of mentality that has created this disease-sick planet. And the body's version is the drug mentality, the medical mentality, the surgical mentality that says that we can bomb ourselves back to health using prescription drugs. Folks, when the blood gets dirty, when the blood starts to clot, when the blood gets inflamed, there is no way to avoid disease, and there's no drugs that can help you. Plavix isn't going to help. Plavix and Pradaxin and warfarin are just more toxins that the body has to deal with. There's a condition called DIC, disseminated intravascular coagulopathy. This is doctor talk for sticky, sludgy, toxic blood. The plumbing gets all clogged up. Go Google it. DIC, disseminated intravascular coagulopathy. They'll tell you it's a serious, life-threatening disease, but what they don't tell you is that before it gets officially diagnosed, it's an under-the-radar condition that gradually, chronically degenerates and gets worse and worse. If you have any kind of degenerative chronic long-term disease, anything from arthritis to atherosclerosis to autoimmune disease, whatever, you can rest assured that lurking behind your symptoms, you will find some degree of DIC, disseminated intravascular coagulopathy, sticky clotting, toxic blood. DIC is the full-blown condition, but it's a gradually building degenerative inflammatory disease of the blood that's behind every single chronic degenerative disease you can name. And folks, this is really good news. This is really good news. This is the bright side. Why is it good news? It's because we have control over it. We have power over it. We can change the way we eat. We can change the way we breathe. We can change what we put into our system. We can heal our gut. We can get on nutritional supplements. We can practice good health. And we don't need doctors to do it. And we don't need drugs to do it. And we don't need insurance companies or Obamacare to do it. We can do it ourselves. This is so powerful. Whatever your degenerative disease is, backtrack it to dirty blood and backtrack further to stuff that's getting into your system. Get yourself on a nutritional supplement program. Immediately practice deep breathing techniques. Slowly in through the nose, slowly out through the nose. And you won't have to be dealing with Obamacare, which is coming up here in 8 weeks. All right, there's more I want to talk about when it comes to blood clotting, and I want to talk about the electrical nature of the body. This is the coolest part of the body to me. The electrical nature of health and wellness, the electrical nature of biology. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You are listening to The Bright Side. Our number is 855-660-4261. We'll be back after this. According to Fierce Pharma, which is a drug industry newsletter, blood clot fighters are expected to grow faster than any other drugs over the next 6 years. Drug companies love anti-clotting agents. They love blood-thinning agents because so many of us have toxic blood. Now, given the billions and billions of dollars to be made in anticoagulant therapy, the jobs that depend on drugs, from industrial laborers to marketers to researchers to the CEOs of drug companies, the careers that depend on anticoagulant drugs and the billions of dollars in profits that are made on them, and the investors that are counting on a return, do you think the drug companies are going to tell you that all you really need to do to keep your blood healthy is to keep it from inflaming, to keep from putting the crap into your body, to make sure you're breathing okay? Do you think the healthcare industry has any incentive to let you know that blood clotting is nothing more than inflamed blood? Why do you think they give you aspirin, by the way, to thin the blood? Aspirin's an anti-inflammatory. If your doctor told you, oh, you got to take a baby aspirin now because you got clotting blood, what he forgot to tell you is that your clotting blood is nothing more than arthritis of the blood. That's why you get aspirin. They don't give you Tylenol. You know why they don't give you Tylenol? Because Tylenol's not an anti-inflammatory. When you're taking an anticoagulant drug, you're not supposed to use Motrin or Naproxen or any other of these anti-inflammatory agents. You know why? Because they're anti-inflammatory, and they will amplify the potency of the Pradaxa and the Plavix and the Coumadin. Blood clotting is inflamed blood, period. Inflammation is always the manifestation of something that the body is trying to defend against, in combination with nutritional and oxygen deficiencies. What does that tell you? Eliminate the toxicity, put in the nutrition, make sure you're breathing, and your blood isn't going to clot, period. Now, if you have some kind of major stress like surgery, your blood will clot as well, because clotting is the manifestation as well of some kind of emergency, as we've talked about many times before. Long story short, clotting blood is stressed out blood. And vitamin K is required for the blood clotting process, and warfarin blocks vitamin K from doing its clotting thing. Pradaxa and Plavix, these newer anticoagulants that are coming out, they don't work the same way. So you don't have to deal with vitamin K deficiency, at least, but they're still toxic, because the blood, forcing the blood to thin is not in the body's interest. It might be in your doctor's interest. It might be in the drug company's interest, but it isn't in your body's interest. And by the way, there's wonderful natural blood thinners anyway. If you really want to thin your blood, if you're really toxic and you want to thin your blood using some kind of agent, use the Z-radical. Sulfated polysaccharides in the Z-radical, and in algae, by the way, and in all ocean vegetation, is incredible blood thinning. Has incredible blood thinning properties. Z-radical is just amazing product. Longevity Z-radical. Everybody should be using it. I take it every day. I don't have any health problems. I take Z-radical twice a day. Z radical is a source of the most electrical of all minerals, and that's sulfur. Or among the most electrical of all minerals. We talked about sulfur a couple weeks ago. Vitamin C also helps. All seaweed, vegetation, sulfur, all wonderful blood thinners. Omega-3 fatty acids, also great blood thinning agent. By the way, vitamin E and vitamin K have an interesting relationship. Vitamin E is an incredible natural blood thinner, so potent that your doctor will tell you, don't take vitamin E if you're going to have surgery because they're afraid you're going to thin the blood too much. Vitamin E can actually be considered nature's warfarin. It antagonizes vitamin K, like warfarin antagonizes vitamin K, or Coumadin, depending on what you want to call it. Coumadin works by antagonizing vitamin K in a toxic fashion. Vitamin E works to antagonize vitamin K in a complementary, natural, balancing fashion, in a gentle fashion. Vitamin E and vitamin K are partners. They're colleagues. So if you use the Longevity Ultimate EFA, you're going to get vitamin E, you're going to get omega-3 fatty acids. These are two wonderful nutritional supplements for naturally thinning your blood. If you have any kind of problems of absorbing fats, malabsorption of fats, which many Americans do, if you have bile problems, if you've got a gallbladder removed, if you have liver issues, 30% at least of Americans are dealing with fatty liver disease. All of these are going to compromise your body's ability to absorb these fatty nutrients, and that means more likelihood of clotting blood. Can you see what we're doing here, folks? We're taking this disease state of clotting blood that ordinarily would be some kind of doctor or medical issue, and we're taking the power and putting it back in our laps. We're returning the power to its rightful owner, and that's us. Treat your clotting blood as inflamed blood. Treat it as toxic blood. Get yourself on nutritional supplements like vitamin E, omega-3 fatty acids, the Z radical, seaweed, ocean products, sulfur, MSM. These are all wonderful blood thinning, natural blood thinning agents. Pharmaceutically blocking vitamin K is a crazy, crazy medical strategy because all the things vitamin K does. Blocking vitamin K to accomplish blood thinning was a strategy that was developed before we knew what vitamin K did. Vitamin K is far, far, far more than a clotting vitamin. For one thing, it's an energizing vitamin. It's an electrical vitamin. It works as an electricity handler, an electricity carrier. The way the body handles electricity is what I consider to be the most fascinating aspect in all of biology. It's called electrobiology. Most people haven't heard of electrobiology. Probably your doctor hasn't heard of electrobiology. But even nutrition and nutritional supplementation and food works fundamentally at the electrical level. Everything is electricity. It's electrical. This is what Linus Pauling talked about. Linus Pauling gets a lot of credit for being one of the first guys to understand the power of vitamin C, but he understood the power of vitamin C because he was an electrobiologist. He was an electrochemist. He loved vitamin C because he understood the electrical nature of vitamin C. Same with vitamin K. Vitamin K was actually discovered, or at least partially, vitamin C was actually discovered by a guy named Albert Szent-Györgyi. He's considered to be the father of electrobiology. In the pantheon of electrical vitamins and vitamin-like substances, vitamin C is super important, and vitamin K is right up there. Vitamin K, coenzyme Q10, vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, these are the most powerful electrical vitamin substances in the body. Vitamin K and its colleague, its partner, vitamin E, are probably the most electrical of all the vitamins, along with vitamin C. These are probably the three most electrical vitamins: vitamin K, vitamin E, and vitamin C. Vitamin K and vitamin C works a little bit differently than vitamin K and vitamin E. Chemistry is really about shape. You know, everybody's intimidated by chemistry. Chemistry is nothing more than tinker toys. That's all it is. You know, you don't need to know any math. You don't need to know any equations. You don't need to know any science to understand chemistry, really. Chemistry is just tinker toys and shapes. For you guys who want to figure out this whole chemistry thing and biochemistry, and it really is the fundamental component of health, if you really want to figure out biochemistry without dealing with hard science, just think of tinker toys. Just think of tinker toy-like structures. Hang tight, I'll tell you what I mean when we come back from our break. I am Pharmacist Ben. You are listening to The Bright Side on the Genesis Communication Network. Our number is 855-660-4261. Got a couple lines open for you. We will take your calls and can just finish up a little bit on vitamin K when we come back from our break. Okay, so last we said, before we went to break, we were talking about how chemistry is about shape. It's not confusing, really, if you just think of tinker toys. Imagine just tinker toy-like structures, except the cool thing about chemistry in the body, chemistry in general, is that instead of having little wood pieces that connect everything together, like in a tinker toy structure, you have high technology, science fiction, electrified connections. You don't have little wood connections. You've got electrically vibrating connections. This is so amazing, and it's something we take for granted. Chemistry works via electrically vibrating shapes. This is amazing, people. The tiniest little chemical structure is nothing more than an electrically vibrating shape. And each of these electrically vibrating shapes has its own personality based on its specific shape. That's all it is. Nothing more than that. And there are these lock and key kinds of reactions where different kind of key shapes fit into different kind of key locks in the body, and everything happens like this. And these little key shapes, the healthy little key shapes, are what we call nutrition. The toxic little key shapes are what we call poisons. And drugs count. Drugs count as poison key shapes that muck up the locks. This is so important, people, because we get all confused. We get blown away. We give up when it comes to understanding the biochemical, electrical nature of the body. And it isn't really that complicated. All right, there's so much more I want to talk about when it comes to vitamin K, when it comes to vitamin E. Tomorrow we'll tell you about some more foods that you can use for natural blood thinning. And we'll tell you about some of the other things that vitamin K does. And remember, this all has to do with vitamin K's very important role when it comes to anabolic nutrition, when it comes to building things, especially when it comes to building bone. And by the way, vitamin K also has some tremendous anti-aging properties. One of the main ways we die is through the effects of calcification. And vitamin K, as it turns out, because of its electrical nature, has some amazing anti-calcification properties for you guys dealing with calcification of tissue. By the way, it's not cholesterol that's so much the problem when it comes to heart disease as much as it is calcium. Calcification plus cholesterol, and vitamin K is one of your most important weapons in keeping this from happening. Okay, 855-660-4261 is our number. Time to hit our first phone call of the day. Let's go to Tom in Texas. What's up, Tom? Welcome to the Bright Side, buddy.
Hello, how are you? Great program. I listen to you all the time.
Thank you so much. What's going on?
Okay, I have diabetic retinopathy, and my retina is somewhat detached.
Okay.
And they want to do a laser type surgery, and I'm concerned about losing peripheral vision, and don't want to do that. And my diabetes is under control right now.
How do you tell me what you mean by under control? How do you define that?
My numbers are like 105, 106, 107.
What's your weight?
247 pounds.
Are you 6'8"?
6'2".
Okay, 6'2", 280. You said, or
6'2". My weight is 247.
Is it like linebacker 247? Like you're playing middle linebacker somewhere?
No.
Then it's not a good thing. Then it's your diabetes probably isn't under control. See, here's the thing about diabetes. They give you, in order to diagnose diabetes, you have to meet a certain criteria of blood sugar. But that doesn't mean, if you meet that criteria and they say, oh, well, your diabetes is under control, that doesn't mean that it's not sneaking upwards, or that doesn't mean that you still have dysglycemia or blood sugar problems. The fact that your body's starting to degrade it's more concerning than simply the retinal detachment, which is obviously a problem. Retinal detachment is when the retina literally will peel away from the underlying tissue underneath the eye. That's a serious problem, of course, but what's even more serious is that your body's beginning to break down. How old are you, sir?
55.
55, you say?
Yes.
Okay, well, you're a young man. You're way too young to be experiencing this kind of breakdown. So here's a couple things for you, okay? Number one, first and foremost, you got to figure out what's getting into your body that's causing this distress. It's probably going to be some kind of food. If you don't know that you have some kind of digestive issue, then you got to find it. That's the first thing. Folks, you got to realize this. Diabetes is a big, big, big problem. We got 100 million diabetics or pre-diabetics in this country, probably more. But underneath diabetes, underneath blood sugar problems, you are going to find problems with processing food, especially with gut bacteria and problems in the small intestine. So what you want to do is you want to start to focus on foods. Number one, eliminating foods that cause digestive distress. Look for diarrhea, constipation, bloating, gas, heartburn, all the typical digestive symptoms, and then start to eliminate foods that cause those. It could very well be foods that are high sugar that are causing those. There's a condition called small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which stands for SIBO. It's linked to blood sugar problems and diabetes, and it's associated with problems metabolizing or handling sugars. And by sugars, I don't mean just fructose and glucose. It could be just starchy kinds of things, potatoes, rice, cereals, breads, those kinds of foods. So do you notice any problems when you're eating those foods, gas, bloating, that kind of thing?
Previously, I'm going to start doing a food extractor and eating more raw now.
That would definitely help you.
Yes, I was.
Okay, well, that's very common. It's not unusual. It's called SIBO. You may want to look into it. Small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So these are the things that are happening. Let's talk about some solutions. Number one, get yourself on the nightly essence or some good probiotic supplement. I like the nightly essence the best. Use 80 billion units a day, multiple strains of bacteria. Start eating fermented foods in addition to the raw foods. That's great, but throw in some fermented foods as well. Fermented cabbage, fermented beets, kimchi, miso, tempeh, anything you could do to fermented foods is going to be in your interest. And you want to start taking in nutrients that help protect you from, before you even do that, try to wean yourself away from foods that throw off your blood sugar into more protein and more fats, good fats, coconut oil, butter, essential fatty acids. Put oils on and butter and coconut oil on all your foods, and then throw in Celtic sea salt on top of that. With your raw veggies, or with veggies in general, the combination of fats and salt and veggies is super delicious and super tasty, and it'll help you wean off of any foods that throw off your blood sugar. Then you want to start to take in nutrients that help stabilize the blood sugar. Chromium and vanadium, the Longevity Sweeties, is a wonderful product for that. The B complex are probably your most important blood sugar stabilizing nutrients, especially thiamine, which is vitamin B1, and niacin, which is vitamin B3. You may want to get some timed release niacin, 100 milligrams or so, but whenever you're doing your timed release niacin, make sure you take all the B complex with it. Sip on the BTT all day long. That's, as I've said many times, one of the neatest things about the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, the BTT, is it's absolutely loaded with the B complex, way high doses of the B complex, and you don't have to worry about toxicity with the B complex because you urinate out what you don't use. Vitamin C is a very underappreciated blood sugar nutrient. It'll also help you with connective tissue. Retinal detachment is largely a connective tissue issue, so vitamin C can be helpful. The BTT is going to give you 1,000 milligrams per couple of scoops, but you may want to throw in a couple of 1,000 milligrams extra a day. Hang tight. There's a couple more things: magnesium, taurine, arginine. Hang on, Tom. I'll finish up when we come back from our break. If you're on hold, stay there. We'll get to you when we come back. I'm Pharmacist Ben. You are listening to The Bright Side on the Genesis Communication Network. Welcome back to The Bright Side. We're talking to Tom in Texas about diabetic retinal detachment, diabetic retinopathy. Tom, you there, bro?
Yes, I'm here. Great.
Okay, so retinal detachment is a connective tissue issue. By the way, do you know that there's antibiotics that can cause retinal detachment or can cause connective tissue problems, like retinal detachment, the Cipro? Have you been on antibiotics at all by any chance?
Yes, I'm on citromycin.
Okay, well, that's not associated with it, but just so you know, that's just an aside, just to point out another toxic side effect of these pharmaceuticals. Retinal detachment is associated with a class of drugs like Cipro, which many people take for urinary tract infections, I believe. In any case, retinal detachment, you want to regard it as basically the body falling apart. Connective tissue that attaches everything is starting to degrade. It's not unusual. This is one of the things that happen as we get older. You are a little bit young for this to be occurring, which is somewhat troubling. At the age of 55, you shouldn't be experiencing these kinds of things. In any case, there are things you could do. As we said before we went to break, you want to go start to focus on correcting any digestive issues. Digestive problems will not only cause the entrance of toxic material into the blood, it will also cause malnutrition, nutritional deficiencies, which will exacerbate the breakdown. So patch up the gut, get on the nightly essence, avoid problem foods, you know the drill. Then you want to start working with blood sugar stabilizing nutrients, Sweeties from Longevity, the Beyond Tangy Tangerine tangerine. Vitamin C is also important. Vitamin E can have some wonderful protective benefits, not just for diabetes, also for blood sugar problems, but for connective tissue issues as well. I'd be using 400 international units a day of mixed tocopherols. Mixed tocopherols is a form of vitamin E. You can also try the fancy form, which is the tocotrienol form. Magnesium is very, very important for connective tissue issues and for blood sugar. 1,000 milligrams to 2,000 milligrams a day. Use the Osteo. You can use the Osteomag from Youngevity if you're on the Youngevity products. All the B complex, niacin, and thiamine especially. And then there's a couple other extra things that you might want to consider. Protein is very, very important for all connective tissue problems. Take your protein with digestive enzymes. If you use the ultimate enzymes with your protein, number one, you'll get better absorption of the protein, and number two, if you take the ultimate enzymes on an empty stomach, they can help with any microinflammation that is occurring. Any autoimmunity, by the way? Any kind of autoimmune issues going on that you know of?
Not that I know of.
Okay, well, we won't go there then. But that's a lot of good information for you. If you have any more questions, I got to move on here, Tom. If you have any more questions, send me an email, ben@ksco.com. Put your phone number in there.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
God bless, bro. Take care, man. Okay, let's see who we could take here. Let's go to Ron. Ron in Rhode Island. What's up, Ron? Welcome to the bright side.
Ben, how are you?
Doing good, man. How you doing?
Good. I listen to you all the time.
Good deal. Where are you? Where in Rhode Island?
Providence.
Okay. I was just there a couple months ago. Nice city.
Really?
Yep. Is the mayor still in jail?
The whole state, all the politicians should be in jail.
Well, that's a rule. That's a general rule. That's a general rule.
They should just build a fence around the State House.
Yeah, that's funny in Rhode Island. So what's going on today, buddy?
I got a friend, his father's 90 years old, and he's going in for a hip operation because he's bone on bone.
90 years old? Did you say 90?
90.
Okay, well, here's the deal. He's 90. I don't know. Okay, so he's got 9 decades of just trashing his body, more than likely. I don't know that for a fact, but if he's like everybody, that's what happens. So here's what you want to do. Number one, and this is going to be tricky. I was talking to a gal earlier. This weekend, and her husband was 75, and he was going through all kinds of problems. And here's the thing. When somebody's 75, 80, 90, and they got health challenges, you're not going to get him to be able to do everything he needs to do in order to reverse his challenge. Now, yes, health challenges, degeneration of the body, chronic degenerative disease, this is all reversible. But by the time you're 90, in order to get the body to kick into anabolic mode, into building mode to reverse the problem, you got to make major lifestyle changes that a 90-year-old guy is not going to probably want to do. Yes, if he wants to go start fasting and correcting his digestive issues and changing the way he eats and getting on a powerful supplement program, he can do some dramatic things. But chances are you're dealing with only palliative measures, that is symptomatic measures when you got a 90-year-old guy. But there's still things you could do. So get him on. This is what I love doing for older folks, and by older I mean 80s and 90s, who may not want a full-blown nutritional program and may not want to go all out and changing their lives. Get them on the bone soup. Have you heard me talk about bone soup, Ron?
Yeah.
It's incredible for so many reasons. Number one, it's tasty. There's nobody who has nobody's not going to like the taste of a good chicken soup. And number two, it's easy to absorb protein. And protein is very important, obviously, for the rebuilding process, and it's singularly difficult for the body to process, especially as we get older. But in the bone soup, it's pre-digested, essentially. So get him on bone soup. In fact, that should be his main source of nutrition, is bone soup. Make sure you're using an organic chicken with no antibiotics, because that's all coming out in the soup if you make bone soup with a toxic bird. So have the wife or you or whoever it is making him bone soup, have him sip on it all day long. Have him sip on the Beyond Tangy Tangerine all day long. If you can get him doing eggs, that's another great building food. If you can get him to do whey protein, that's another great building food. The BTT will get him a vitamin C. You can maybe throw in a little bit more vitamin C. If he has problems with bowel movements, sometimes vitamin C can cause loose stools. If somebody has a digestive health issue, then have him do smaller doses of the vitamin C. Have him sip on it. Make sure he's salting his food with Celtic sea salt. Celtic sea salt salt will provide minerals, and it's also very tasty. Most of us love the taste of salt. If he can do coconut oil, or if he can do the essential fatty acid capsules, that's going to help him. Get him on the OsteoMag from Longevity, or the OsteoCal from OsteoFX from Longevity. Both will get him calcium and magnesium as well. You see, you're not going to be able to get him 100% of what he needs, but you can sure improve the pain and the symptoms and just his sense of well-being with all of these nutritional strategies. Make sure he's getting enough of the B complex. In addition to the Beyond Tangy Tangerine, you may want to throw in something called a B100. A B100 is a pretty standard dose of B complex that you can buy off the internet or in a health food store. Make sure that he's getting his fatty nutrients as well, the vitamin E, sunshine, if he can get out in the sun to get his vitamin D, and then, as I said earlier, essential fatty acids. All of these, even if you do a couple of these, you're going to start to notice some improvement, he will start to notice some improvement in symptoms, but he still may need that hip operation because, if he's like most of us, like most Americans anyway, he's been doing the stuff to break his body down for a long time. 90 years old is a lot of years to be on planet Earth, but you can still improve a lot of his symptoms and make him feel better and more comfortable. Excuse me. Make sure he's on that bone soup, though. It's tasty, it's delicious, and it's a great source of nutrition. All right, Ron in Rhode Island?
Okay.
Thanks so much, buddy. God bless. I wish I had better news. By the time you're 90, guys, that's a lot of degradation for most people. The body is just so amazing. Even a 90-year-old man who's got bone-on-bone arthritis can begin at least to reverse the degenerative process. But certainly if you're 55 or 50 or 60 or even younger and you're starting to break down, you're starting to exhibit degeneration, your doctor's telling you, well, you got to be on this statin drug the rest of your life, or you got to stay on this blood-thinning drug, or you got to stay on this prednisone because you got asthma and you have autoimmune disease. Don't buy into it, people. It's a lie. And I'm not saying that your doctor is intentionally being deceitful. He's just been brought up that way. It's the medical model. It's the paradigm. It's the way we look at health. It's not fair. It's just not right. And this is why I do this Bright Side program every day. You guys, no matter what your health challenge is, no matter what your health condition is, it is reversible because it's in the body's nature to heal. This is good news. This is the bright side. And you only have to look at your finger every time you cut yourself to witness this powerful healing process take place. You don't have to think about it. The cells just wind themselves to the area. They start secreting the collagen, and the white blood cells come and clear out infection, and 2 days later your cut's gone. And that is the testimony. That is the proof that you have this healing system built into the body, and all it needs is the raw materials to do its work. And that's what nutritional supplementation is all about. I wish we could get everything we need from food, folks, but that just is not going to happen. You got to get yourself on a nutritional supplement program. Daniel in California, you got a couple minutes, real quick. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Ben, I was just calling. I got on for a testimonial. I got on a nutritional supplement program with Longevity, and I went. My varicose veins are like pretty much kind of gone.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Hey, can you call back tomorrow, man? I'll take you first up. If you call back tomorrow, can I get you to do that? We got the music going. I apologize, Dan. I apologize if we left you on hold. You got to call in earlier, folks. All right, that's it. We will continue talking about vitamin K and the electrical nature, the shape of vitamin K, and why the shapes of these molecules are so important as we continue talking about bone building nutrition, general anabolism, nutritional supplementation for building the body. Check out my blog, pharmacistben.com. Check out my website, brightsideben.com, and join the Brightside Ben team. Make some money selling longevity products and help spread the word about the power and importance of nutritional supplementation. I'm Pharmacist Ben. Have an awesome, wonderful, beautiful day. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye for now.